afternoon, trial of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and 7 others begins at the criminal court here in Accra.
Also, we'll tell you how President Mahama and the majority leadership in Parliament are in disagreement over whether or not the office of the Special Prosecutor should be maintained.
Also coming up, National Task Force for the Concerned Small-Scale Miners Association intensify crackdown on legal mining along the Ofin River, destroying more than 100 Shangfang machines. It's News Central here on TV3. I'm Kemini Amanor.
And I am Mawuena Egbeta. The bulletin starts right now. This afternoon, the high-profile trial of former Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta and 7 others is expected to commence at the Accra High Court. The case has drawn quite the significant national interest owing to the failed attempt to extradite Mr. Ofori-Atta to Ghana after he left the country for medical care in the U.S. Ken Ofori-Atta and the 7 co-accused face multiple charges relating to alleged financial malfeasance during his tenure at the Finance Ministry. Prosecutors say the accused persons were involved in procurement breaches, misrepresentation, and financial losses to the state. All 8, however, have firmly denied any wrongdoing, setting the stage for what is likely to be a lengthy and fiercely contested trial. Today's session is expected to focus on preliminary motions, including responses to the charges, the prosecution's readiness, and possible objections from the Defense Counsel. The Office of the Special Prosecutor has signaled confidence in its evidence, while the defense team are expected to challenge aspects of the prosecution's case, including procedural issues and admissibility of some of the evidence as put together. Overall, observers say the outcome of this case could have far-reaching political and institutional implications. And you know, there are bits and pieces about the processes as well, which all of this is supposed to go through as well in relation to the criminal summons, because some of the individuals, we know Mr. Ofori-Atta and one other individual, Chef de Cabinet, as the OSP has made us understand, are not currently present in the jurisdiction. And so what happens in relation to all of that? But let's try and start off from the beginning as to the charges, right? The charges slapped on the 8, with the former finance minister inclusive. I'll walk you to the dashboard right now, and that's where we're going to seek to refresh our memory before we take you to the court and get an understanding as to whether or not the trial has started proper. And a number of you watching at home via your phones as well and your laptops are particularly interested in this one. But like I mentioned, let's walk through the charges again. And so there are multiple charges in all, 70 plus charges. The first, conspiracy to influence procurement, and that's on multiple counts. And the facts in relation to these multiple counts of this conspiracy to influence procurement, agreement among public officials and SML to manipulate the procurement process in SML's favor, especially using single source procurement without approval. Also, we'll walk you through the additional charges. Influencing the procurement process, that's also multiple counts. Actual acts of improperly awarding contracts to SML via single source procurement without the mandatory procurement approvals from the PPA. Then the third, causing financial loss to the state, and this is where it gets interesting. Willfully enabling SML to receive huge payment for transaction audit services, external price verification services, even though contracts were unlawfully awarded. And then I think that's the last of it. In terms of the charges, let's take you to the courts. I mentioned we're going to take you to the courts. Sixtus Strong Ulo is our man in court for us today. Sixtus, talk to us. Highly anticipated this particular trial. Did it start off properly in court today, and paint for us a picture as to the legal representation for the 8 accused as well?
Court hearing today, and all the accused persons are very much and very well represented. Some have multiple lawyers on their team that have come to represent them. But the charges that you read out, if you group them, you'll find that individually, we can say that Emmanuel Kofi Ntim, who is the third accused person in this matter, has about 39 counts of offenses that he would be tried on starting today. And of course, that is followed, that is the highest. I think the attention has always been on the former finance minister, Ken Oforiatta, but Emmanuel Kofi Ntim is the one who has the highest count of criminal offenses, then followed by the former finance minister, who is to answer to 28 counts of criminal offenses, and the least among them is by 8 counts of criminal offenses that stands against Kojo Damwa, who is the 6th accused person in this matter. And interestingly, Mawuena, when the case was called, Kojo Damwa was not present in court. There are 3 of them who are not present, actually. The first accused person, who is the former finance minister, Kenneth Nana Yao Oforiatta. The second accused person, who is, you can call him a special aide when he was the finance minister, and Dafo Akori. And then the 6th accused person, Kojo Damwa, who is currently a member of parliament. You can describe him as an active member of parliament. So the 3 of them were not in court today. But the one that some lengthy back and forth between lawyers in court was the case of Kojo Damwa. His lawyers raised concern that he had not been properly served with the hearing notice. The hearing notice is what announces to an accused person that he was here before a particular court on a particular day to answer to a particular charge. And his lawyer says, Kojo Damwa's lawyer said that he was not properly served, given that he's a sitting member of parliament. And there are protocols that have been outlined for service of such summons on an active member of parliament. And that also goes back to the Constitution, Article 117, which says that a member of parliament returning from or going to a parliament, or who is returning from a parliamentary proceeding, cannot be served with criminal or civil summons, or to appear in court on a criminal or civil charges. And the lawyer said the circumstances under which the summons or the hearing notice were served, they were not properly so served. But this assertion was reported by the Special Prosecutor, who is personally in court today, leading the charge for the office of the Special Prosecutor on these matters. The Special Prosecutor today says that they were all summoned to the office of the Special Prosecutor on the 9th of December. And the summons were grounded on the fact that they are all out on bail and can be summoned at any time by the Special Prosecutor as testament of their presence within the jurisdiction. You know that normally when you are out on bail, part of the conditions of the bail would be that you are not to leave the jurisdiction. And so the authority can summon you at any point in time just to confirm that indeed you have not left the jurisdiction. You are still within the jurisdiction and ready and available to answer to the charges that are before you. So according to the Special Prosecutor, as he narrated in court this morning, he said that they were all called to the offices of the Special Prosecutor on the 9th of December, at which meeting they were served with the hearing notice for this particular hearing today. But the lawyer said at the time that Kpandai was called or summoned to the office of the Special Prosecutor, he was actually in Parliament, attending to parliamentary duties. And that would mean that at the time he was called, he was returning from parliamentary duties. And that would qualify him under Article 117, meaning that he could not just have simply been served with a hearing notice as any of the other persons would have been served. They had to go through the parliamentary service to be able to serve him. The court, in ruling on the protest as it was then, said that since the member of parliament is entity is not in this case, nobody disputes that he's a member of parliament. Nobody disputes that parliament sat on the 9th of December, which was a Tuesday. Nobody can confirm, contrary to the assertion by the accused person, that indeed Kpandai was not in parliament. And so the court would take his position on that and say that the service was not properly done. So that was the first significant thing that happened. The second thing was the announcement by the OAC to the court that they have started or triggered the extradition processes. This was started on the 19th of November, and that through the Office of the Attorney General and Ministry of Justice, those processes have been initiated, and Ken Oforiatta, who is not in the jurisdiction, and the second accused person, Mr. Akori, who is also not in the jurisdiction, they will be extradited from the United States of America, where intelligence has placed them that they are actually currently in the U.S. While waiting for that, the Special Prosecutor had asked the court to issue summons for the charges to be served on the two accused persons in the United States, whilst awaiting the extradition processes.
And what was the court's decision on that particular matter? He asking that summons be served on the two accused who are outside of the country.
Well, the court is yet to give a ruling on that. This was an ex parte motion that the SP moved, and he requested that the details of the motion be heard in chambers. And so the court agreed that it would clear the court, the rest of the people in the court, so that only the lawyers will be present when the details of the motion are taken. And so we are not privy to the details, and we don't know whether the court was grant or not. As I the court is still in session, and they are actually taking the plea of all 8 accused persons. Well, as we will speak, there won't be 8, there will be 5 accused persons who will be taken. And that is that they will read out the charges to the accused person, and the accused person will be given the opportunity to say whether he is guilty or not guilty. If he says he's not guilty, then we are going the full ball. If he says he's guilty, then that may be may cut the journey short for that person. So we are yet to get details of that as the court is still in session.
Right then, Sixers, appreciate. I'm sure we'll get details of this motion, the request by the Special Prosecutor. And just by way of additional detail, Mr. Kpandai Jabe himself is the one in court leading the OSP in this prosecution, just by way of clarity.
That he's personally leading the charge. Mawuena, this may be well understood. You know that the officer has come under intense pressure on this particular case. And so we find the SP himself personally leading this particular case, probably to ensure that he gets the conviction that he's looking for, to appease the public who is very much unhappy with the handling of these affairs so far.
He is a master of criminal law, Kpandai Jabe, who is the Special Prosecutor. And so very interesting. He is in court by himself, leading the office of the Special Prosecutor in this prosecution, in this SML saga. But there's a lot of controversy surrounding the office, and rightly so, Kemini. two leaders from the majority caucus and the minority, they're leading the charge with the private members' bill, seeking to have the office abolished to an extent and returned to the Attorney General. But the position of the president,
it's very different from
very
that.
different.
And that's where we are headed now. Let's bring in now Edem Senano. Edem Senano is an anti-corruption campaigner. Edem, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon. I'll come back to you briefly, and then we'll have the discussion on the different positions from what the president has, and then what the majority leadership or the majority side in parliament also has. In the meantime, we know that the two leaders from the majority caucus, Mahama and Roxanne Nelson Dapiamekpo, have drafted a private members bill to repeal the OSP Act and abolish the Office of the Special Prosecutor. Now, this follows days of intense public and political demand for the office to be abolished after the arrest and detention of lawyer Martin Kpebu. Let's take a listen to this, then we go to our conversation.
According to the two majority MPs, the operational experience since the establishment of the Office of the Special Prosecutor has revealed persistent challenges, including the duplication of constitutional prosecutorial functions of the OSP and the Attorney General. According to them, there has been institutional friction between the two offices and jurisdictional overlap, which have resulted in delays and inefficiencies. They have also cited high operational cost of the Office of the Special Prosecutor, with limited demonstrable impact in relation to the budgetary allocations made to the office. This draft bill would have to go through a number of layers, including being considered by relevant committees before it is brought before the House for consideration and passage, which would then initiate the processes for the repeal of the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Now you appreciate the power of the minority. You need us. We both need each other.
Meanwhile, the minority in Parliament cooperated and participated in proceedings in the House, despite the early indication that they are going to continue to frustrate government business until the clerk to Parliament repeals or withdraws his notice to the Electoral Commission declaring the Kpandai seat vacant.
Oh, we can now bring in Edem on this subject matter. Let's look at the different positions we're seeing from the presidency and the majority side in Parliament. What do you make of that?
Well, I'll give kudos to the president. I think that he has his finger on the pulse of the nation, and he has his mind properly analyzing the issues. I am a bit, not just a bit, quite disappointed in the parliamentary posture. On one hand, I see it as an attempt at unwarranted intimidation of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. On the other hand, it's a betrayal of trust, because this country has gone through a historically long period of analyzing the AG's office, right from independence with Jeffrey being as Attorney General, until 2017 to date, where we drew the conclusion, and conclusively, that the AG's was incapable of, as it were, holding accountable his own or her own peers at the level of government. And so we decided to adopt from international best practice, as the US has done, the Office of the Special Prosecutor. It's just that the constitutional arrangements at the time didn't make it an easy solution, and so we had to find an interim measure of trying to do it under the aegis, but shield it a bit, granted some independence. So ultimately, we need this in the Constitution. So the president, I think, is reading the facts properly. I don't even understand some of the issues. I think you need to check whether this is legitimately from those two lawmakers, because when they talk about duplication of prosecution powers, come on, we actually need many more institutions engaged in prosecution. What has been the greatest challenge that the AGs has faced? It's people saying that you are too slow. All the oral cases, we see no progress. If we leave the AGs alone to try and handle all these cases, we are not going to see the light of day. So to say overlapping prosecutor and prosecuting responsibilities, it's neither here nor there. And then they talk about friction. What friction are they talking about? The leaders of both organizations have come to de-escalate and said really there was no friction. It was just an issue of the timing between a request for the docket on the work which was still being done on the packets too, and that has been resolved. They are now in court, as I understand it. The SP is in court today, moving the extradition request. So why is somebody trying to hype something that is really not a big issue? Then they talk about little results. Is that true? I think all of us should interrogate these matters. I mean, that office has 71 cases under investigation, 33 cases in court, has 7 convictions at the moment, has retrieved over $2 million, has saved this country over 5.7 billion Ghana cedis, and every year has gone to Parliament itself to defend why it should have a budget. This is an institution that is still trying to get these offices in place, etc. This is a betrayal of the trust of the people when Parliament begins to take the posture that they don't want to be accountable. What it does is, if they are not careful, and it's a caution to them, the social capital with which they came in, the goodwill of the citizens, they'll be losing it very fast if they go down this trajectory.
I see. Adam, so how do you see this playing out? Remember that there is the president's position, there is also the majority caucus position, and then the private legal practitioner who's also taken this matter or is headed to court on the same subject matter. How do you see all of this playing out?
Well, I assume that the party should be listening to its leader, and so the president's position ought to hold sway ultimately, and for good reason. Honestly, the majority of us in civil society, the majority of citizens who pay attention to the facts, you just have politically exposed persons who don't want to be accountable, full stop. And I think we need to send a caution to them. This is not the time where we're expecting them to do that. It should be public goods. They should focus on the public goods rather than on private gain. That's not what we brought them back into power to do. That's not why they are in office. That's not why the people of this country overwhelmingly voted for them. Focus on the public good and not on private gain. But with the independent person, I think that, they are raising substantive issues. Ultimately, this office ought to be established in the Constitution. And many of us, in making our recommendations to the Constitutional Review Committee, highlighted that, listen, put this in the Constitution so that all doubts about its existence and the role it has to play will be dealt with, especially because they need to deal with high-level corruption and impunity by politically exposed persons. These persons have a lot of money, a lot of influence, and the more cases that the special prosecutor does, the more likely they are to be stepping on the toes of persons in this category. They would then marshal all their resources, all their avenues, including media, and try and create the impression that there's confusion in that office, when really there is no confusion. The SP has his work cut out for them, and I pray they will focus and not be distracted by all these things happening.
Very well. I want us to take a look at Noah's writ of summons, and then we would look at the issues. I'll take your comments on that. We know that the Deputy Attorney General had posted that a private legal practitioner or a citizen of this country had gone to court regarding the independence of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. In fact, the writ filed at the Supreme Court is seeking a declaration that the OSP is not independent of the Attorney General. It also goes on to say that there shall be citing that there shall be an Attorney General of Ghana who shall be a Minister of State and the principal legal advisor to the government. The Attorney General shall be responsible for the initiation and conduct of all prosecutions and criminal offences. All offences prosecuted in the name of the Republic of Ghana shall be at the suit of the Attorney General or any other person authorized by him in accordance with any law. And then also, so essentially, this is the context that Noah is providing as far as that writ he's filed at the Supreme Court is concerned. At the end of this, what clarity are you expecting it will bring to the Office of the Special Prosecutor, juxtaposing it to the Office of the Attorney General?
Well, I don't think that Noah is going to give us any clarity. He's raising issues that have already been in the public domain over the years. There's nothing new in here. Really, what we're seeking to do, all of us who helped craft Act 959, was to ensure that the lacuna we'd identified, a space where politically exposed persons were not being held accountable and they were getting away with impunity. So this was an interim measure. It's almost like an iterative process. We've not gotten to the end of the road. The end of the road, clearly, was get this into the Constitution. So he's not raising anything that is new. And the thing is that, does this serve the best interest of Ghanaians? Does this promote the best interest of Ghanaians? And that was the point. The office promotes the best interest of Ghanaians as we sought to get to the point where we do the constitutional amendments and get this properly situated there, which is where we have arrived at. Hopefully, the Constitutional Review Committee report will reflect that. And we need to continue the engagement, because you don't want government to suddenly come up with a white paper that excludes critical issues like this. This just has got to be there. So really, I'm not sure this is going to add any value. This is probably some private interest that is being articulated here. It is not a public good as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't promote where we are. It does not take on board the historical evidence and why we need this office, which nobody doubts. If you ask anybody, whether it's Kojo Asantis or Franklin Kujos or Samson, anybody who's in this space who's really been following what is going on, we are clear in our minds that this is a substantive office. We cannot begin to just trivialize its importance. If people want to seek clarity from the Supreme Court, that's fine. But to suggest that the office comes under the Attorney General, because it does come under the Attorney General, what we tried to do was to give it a certain level of independence, so that the situation where the age is, because he sits in cabinets with his colleagues, and he cannot go and sit and say, I've taken you to court, we are detaining you, and so on and so forth. You had an independent person able to do this, still within the framework. I think that was a pragmatic effort, and let's not throw it away so quickly without understanding the issues.
Edem, thank you so much for your insight on the subject matter. Edem Senano is an anti-corruption campaigner. We'll stay on the subject because President John Dramani Mahama says calls for the scrapping of the Office of the Special Prosecutor are premature. The president made this observation during a meeting with the National Peace Council at the Jubilee House.
That's why we're resourcing the Economic and Organized Crime Office and the other anti-corruption institutions, including the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And recently, there have been some controversy with the Office of the Special Prosecutor. I think it's premature to call for the closure of that office. The unique thing about that office is it is the only anti-corruption agency that has prosecutorial powers to be able to prosecute themselves without going through the Attorney General. And so people had mistrust with the Attorney General because the Attorney General normally is a member of government and is a minister of state. And so they believe that the Attorney General will be very reluctant to prosecute his own. But if there's an independent office like the Office of the Special Prosecutor, it won't matter who you are because they have security of tenure and they have prosecutorial powers, whether you're a member of government or you're a member of a previous government or you are anybody who has, misappropriated public funds. They have the law is behind them to be able to prosecute you. So I think we should give them a little time. Of course, people want to see, more prosecutions and more results. And so I'll just urge the OSP to speed up, some of these investigations and, show people that the office is still very relevant.
Let's move away from the conversations in relation to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. And hundreds of service personnel drawn from the Ghana Armed Forces and other security agencies are this morning touring all 4 entry points from other regions into the capital city as part of efforts to demonstrate the operational readiness to respond to any attack. Joseph Armstrong Gold is with the team, is joining us with a bit more in terms of the details. They've described it as a show of force. Exactly what is this? Armstrong is connecting with us right now. Armstrong, you've been with the team, different entry points. What's been happening?
Mawuena, so currently I'm with Team Alpha here, and where we are based now is around the Budumbram enclave, and we have other teams like Team Bravo, Delta, all moving towards other directions. So the reason for this exercise is to test the preparedness level of the various security services we have in the country, particularly coming into Accra. So we have a team that is moving towards the Aflao Road, a team that is moving towards the Akosomo Road, those coming from Kumasi, and where we are people who are coming from the Central Region enclave. So basically it's for the services to show how prepared they are to deal with any untoward attacks towards in this country. So before we move from the Independence Square or the Blaster Square, we were briefed about the need for this exercise, also for the services to network with residents or citizens of the country so they see them as one of them and not enemies, Mawuena.
Important to mention that briefing which came through seeking to explain the rationale for the show of force. And so since you've been with this team, what's been the reaction from the general populace as you've done the road trip and you're seeking to return to the capital?
Mawuena, we moved from the Blaster Square, and I can report that right from the Blaster Square towards National Theatre, through Circle, Kaneshi, Odoko, Malam, Junction, through Kasua, you could see people cheering the military personnel and also that of the police that have joined. They look very cheerful, and they are like, Mumfaha, pass here, go here. The criminals are hiding here. They are there. And it's basically about how people have so much trust in the military, and that if the military moves in, they believe they are come to put things in order. You see people having their phones, taking shots of the movements of the armored vehicles and all the trucks used by the military, the police service, the immigration, that of the prison service, and also custom exercise. So the mood out there from the residents or the citizens is very high, morale is very high, and it appears that the military and other security services have been able to bring the citizens close to them in terms of their operations.
All right then, Armstrong, thank you very much for those details. Cobra One is what we call him in these parts, the newsroom to be specific. Armstrong Gold Alogwe is my colleague with the military contingent as allied security agencies show force, and also like Armstrong tells us, to engender a bit more trust in the security apparatus of the country as well. It will take us on to our very first break here on News Central. When we return, we are across the regions for you with Regional Hub. Stay with us.
Welcome back. Now, the Electoral Commission's move to stage the Kpandai rerun on December 30 has ignited a new political fight, with the NPP signaling a bruising legal challenge over what it calls a premature and unlawful rush to the polls. The decision follows a Tamale High Court ruling on November 24, 2025, which annulled the results for the 2024 parliamentary poll for the constituency and ordered a new election within 30 days, citing significant irregularities. Let's have a quick chat with Rashid Tanko Computer, who is the Deputy Director of Elections of the NDC. I appreciate your time with us here, Tanko.
Grateful, Kemini.
I know the NDC had already begun some work on the ground after the court had indicated a rerun for the Kpandai constituency. Now we know for sure that the Electoral Commission has set the date, barring any new challenges. December 30 is the day. How does that come to you?
Well, we are grateful to the Electoral Commission, although we are keeping our eagle eye on them. It's an institution we will not close our eyes when it comes to election matters. And so we are keeping our eagle eye on the commission. You know, yesterday in the afternoon, we went to the High Court to file contempt of court against the Electoral Commission. We even filed, and then they quickly had to issue the statement in the evening, giving us a date, because they had no business of not giving us a date. And then now that they've given us a date, we are working towards the date. We are very sure that the NDC is going to emerge victorious come 30th December. In fact, we have prepared adequately for the election, and we want to give our opponents a heavy defeat, and not a small margin. We want to give them a heavy defeat to show to the world that.
I see, Tanko, I want to talk about that suit. Did you just clarify for me? Did you file it? If you did, yes. How does that change now?
Yes, we filed it. We filed the suit. And then what is happening is that what the letter they brought out is just an intent. And so we are waiting to see if they put structures in place, like they invite us to talk of the logistics that they are going to deploy, the notice of poll, the printing of the ballot papers, then we'll be properly convinced that they have now taken proper action towards the conduct of the rerun. Then we cannot go and take it out. But for now, we are not taking it out.
I see. Why, you don't trust the Electoral Commission to follow through with the rerun?
We don't trust them. Since 2024, we've never trusted, as a party, we've never trusted them. And this is not the time for us to have any trust in them. We will continue to keep our eagle eye on them to be very sure that they do the right thing. Don't forget, it was their officers who messed up the election in Kpandai constituency. The second respondent, when we cross-examined the Electoral Commission staff at the High Court, it came out that they were part and parcel of those who have the polling process. And if we are sending the indication and a letter to the Electoral Commissioner to make sure that the gentleman does not run the rerun. He shouldn't be the officer who is to run the rerun in the constituency, because we don't have confidence in him. He is still misbehaved the way he did in the 2024.
I see. We'll leave it here. Thank you so much for talking to us. Tanko Rashid Computer is Deputy Director of Elections for the NDC. Taking us on to Regional Hub now.
The National Task Force of the Concerned Small-Scale Miners Association has intensified its crackdown on illegal mining along the Ofin River, destroying more than 100 Shangfan machines used in polluting the water body. The task force was inaugurated months ago to rid the Ofin River and other water bodies of illegal miners, especially those operating directly on the river. Ibrahim Abubakar, as my colleague, is joining us because he's been following up on this story. Ibrahim, talk to us about this intensified crackdown and the results it's yielding.
So, Mawuena, the task force began its latest operation somewhere 2 weeks ago, and so far it has been able to go to Achiase, Beposo, Etuntuma, Kenyago, all within the Amanse district in the Ashanti region. These are areas where illegal mining is pervasive there. And you realize that most of their water bodies have been heavily polluted, the lands there have been degraded. And the task force is also complementing efforts of government because it is liaising with NIMOS to embark on this operation. So it is using some speedboats to monitor the activities of these illegal miners and also clear them along the water bodies. But interestingly, they are saying that their operation has largely been successful because they have so far received full cooperation from traditional leaders, the assemblymen of the area, and also the chiefs there. So they are able to go there, even though before they get there, these miners would have voted, but they try and burn some of these chamfine machines that are being used for the illegal activity. With the issue of the chamfine machine, we also do know that the Environmental Protection Authority has also intensified its clampdown on these machines, calling for its outright ban. They are saying that whilst they agree with EPA to some extent, especially for the mining activities, they also know that these chamfine machines are also used for other operations like milling activities and also water pump for farming and irrigation activity. And for that matter, when we are looking at the ban, we should be able to separate it from this one. So that is what they are doing, engaging, making sure that we complement government effort to be able to restore our water bodies and also our degraded lands. But largely, the president of the association, Michael Kojo Peprawo, has been speaking to the media, has also been calling on small-scale miners to make sure that they mine responsibly because this is where they get their livelihood from. And if they allow it to be destroyed by these illegal miners, it means it is going to affect all of them. Let's listen to what the president has been saying.
Law permits anyone to mine on the various water bodies, being it mining legally or illegally. So people who are destroying our water bodies, I don't think it needs to be heard. You know, we say water is life. Our water will be cleared from these illegal miners or these criminals. Before you get there, these people would just bolt away and then leave their equipments behind. So only go there once they leave these machines. We destroy them and later we take it from the river. Also, we would advise our members to take reclamation very serious. Whether you have your license or even you don't have it, you make sure that whatever distraction you've caused, you make sure you correct it before you leave site. Because the law permits that before you will leave any site or any place that you've mined, you make sure that you reclaim the land to its natural and its proper.
Just quickly, do we know the composition of this task force? Does it involve the police, military? What is, or is these are just private individuals?
So these are private individuals formed by these miners. Right. But like I said, they do liaise with NIMOS anytime they are going on operation to make sure that they do this and do it sustainably. Right. This time around, they are looking at the sustainability bit because anytime we see them going, then the next week or two, these miners will come back. But they believe that it will be more sustainable this time around because they are receiving the full cooperation of the community.
Right then, Ibrahim, thank you very much. We'll stay on the Galamsey subject because stakeholders in the fight are raising red flags about the attendant impact on the development of children in mining areas. It follows a latest survey by the Participatory Development Associate, PD Africa, which revealed worrying levels of harm illegal mining is posing to children, including school dropouts and drug abuse. At a sensitization workshop, Senior Project Officer Victoria Ampia urged government support to end Galamsey while urging parents to protect their children from the illegal mining menace.
Working with my experience working in communities, one of the things that makes the community powerless in speaking against Galamsey is because of the source of the Galamsey, those who fund the Galamsey activities. Most of these are funded by big people sometimes even the chiefs have a connection to this galamsey minors or influence, and they are also politically very connected. So sometimes the communities fear that if they should speak against it, they are not going to get the kind of development they've already been receiving. However, the other challenge is that all the efforts that other NGOs and development organizations are also making in these communities are being threatened. For instance, we have one project running within the two districts, which is Ahafo Southeast and Ahafo Southwest. We are in 20 communities now implementing a reading program to improve the reading literacy of children within these communities. However, in the past 3 years, we realized that the galamsey has become a threat to this project. Even though the past 2 years we've been able to chalk some success in this area, but the galamsey menace is affecting children. Just this time, the past 3 months, we've lost 2 children. Saturday, we lost another boy to the galamsey operations. So it is actually becoming a threat to all the investment we are making in these communities. So we are asking, or we are looking at different ways to engage the communities so that they will become very powerful to be able to speak against the galamsey menace. They also realize that they are not able to connect the challenges or how it's affecting children to the monies that they are getting. So should children be the cost of galamsey? Should children be the cost of people destroying our lands? No. So what we try to do is to sensitize the community, have engagement with them, and let them know that should this galamsey continue, should they allow this galamsey to continue, it's going to affect the very investment we are making to improve the lives of their children. Or at the end of the day, they are going to get the gold and get the money. But the life of the very children they are getting the money to protect is still going to be destroyed.
Now, to effectively combat cocoa and farm inputs smuggling, Cocoa Board Chairman Samuel Ofosu Ampofo is calling for stronger collaboration with regional security councils. Speaking during a working visit to the Western region, he warned that Cocoa Board's $5.8 million free input program is currently at risk as smugglers tempt farmers with quick cash. Irama Smith has more.
Addressing key challenges facing Cocoa Board, Board Chairman Samuel Ofosu Ampofo stated that smuggling along the country's borders remains a major challenge as it has gone beyond cocoa beans to now include the illicit trade of farm inputs which Cocoa Board provides to farmers for free. He said this year alone, Cocoa Board has supplied farmers with free inputs worth $5.8 million and warned that this significant investment is jeopardized when farmers bypass Cocoa Board and sell their cocoa to smugglers instead. To combat this, he called for stronger collaboration between Cocoa Board and regional security councils to help the security agencies better understand smuggling operations, track distributed farming inputs, and establish effective monitoring mechanisms.
We have realized that there hasn't been enough coordination and collaboration between Cocoa Board and the regional security councils. So some of the regional ministers don't even know our cocoa officers. They don't know our regional managers. They don't have any idea when our inputs are brought and what type of inputs to enable them to also put their monitoring mechanisms in place to help us. Unfortunately, through our interaction with the regional ministers in the regions that we visited, it appears they know very little about the special service and the work that they do. So we are trying to bring it closer so that they get to know the region get to know them.
Western Regional Minister Joseph Nelson, who described the collaboration gap between Cocoa Board and the regional coordinating councils as a critical challenge, stressed the importance of immediately bridging this divide.
It's been a challenge because of the gap, that has existed. I'm here as a regional minister, but I know little about the operations of Cocoa Board. And so for this engagement and for the issues that Chairman has put across, I think that it's important that we see it as it is and then make effort to help deal with it.
In a related development, Deputy CEO of Operations at Cocoa Board, Dr. James Kofi Kutuati, has reviewed the reform of its cocoa input distribution system by transitioning corporatized groups into a task force model to enhance the control of cocoa diseases and pests.
Apparently, it was like the original one, the task force had been abandoned. They were using the cooperative system. But we also think that the task force is very effective, more effective, because that one has the district chief executive on it, farmers rep on it, cocoa representative of farmers on them. So it was very difficult for you to divert any of the inputs. So we thought about it. So we are reviewing that system to ensure that we go by the task force system.
Erama Smith, TV3 News, Second D.
Well, as the world observes the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, concerns are growing over the surge in both physical and digital abuse targeted women. Justices of the Supreme Court and leading advocates say urgent action is the way to approach the troubling trend. Enyanam Haliga reports.
For many women, violence is not a distant threat. It's a daily reality. Latest data from the Ghana Statistical Service reveals that 1 in every 3 women has faced physical, emotional, or sexual abuse at least once in their life. Behind every number is a woman who is afraid to speak, a mother hiding her pain, a daughter trying to escape, or a young girl hoping simply to be safe. But advocates say the pain is evolving. What once happened behind closed doors is now happening behind the screens, in private messages, online threats, hacked accounts, and intimate images shared without consent.
Abuse that used to be physical now has a digital twin, especially distraction, often invisible and frighteningly fast. We have entered a new era of violence, and we must enter a new era of justice.
Globally, the toll is heartbreaking. According to Dr. Charity Binka of the Africa Women Leaders Network, 136 women lose their lives every single day to domestic violence. It means that every 10 minutes, somewhere in the world, a family loses a mother, a sister, a friend.
Statistics are showing us that about 136 women die every day because of gender-based violence. And most of the time, it is the people who they trust, husbands, uncles, brothers, friends, boyfriends, who kill them. Why should it be so? This is something that we need to confront.
But advocates say this can change if society listens, believes, and stands with survivors. As the 16 days of activism continues, the call is not just for stronger laws or safer technology, but for compassion, for awareness, and for the courage to say, this must stop. Enyunam Haliga, TV3 News, Accra.
Well, we'll go for a quick break. Well, thank you very much for staying with us this afternoon. That's our bulletin for you. I am Mawuena Egbeta.
I'm Kemini Amanor. Bye-bye.